Hello and welcome to this month's IRQTC Training Tips newsletter. I'm Brian. Thank you so much to each and every one of you who emailed and let us know how you were using last month's training tip when we practiced Party Wild Horse's mane, brush knees, and cloud hands while sitting and doing it on a ball. Several people really enjoyed that training and thought that they'd be able to implement those things immediately in their practices. So continue, please let us know how you're using these things and if they're valuable and how even you're adapting them so that we can continue to share them with all of us in our IRQTC community. This month's newsletter, in the spirit of Easter, is about resiliency. You ever wonder how the Easter Bunny gets all over the world so fast, bouncing over mountain ranges and hopping over tall buildings? It's that kinetic energy that's stored in his tendons, his or her, I should say, tendons and sinews and musculotendinous junction areas. All those areas store that kinetic energy that gives that Easter Bunny its spring and bounce. A really easy way to think about this with Tai Chi, because this is a Tai Chi principle. This principle of resiliency or yielding, what we call spring force, is a tenet of Tai Chi practice. How can we bring this principle into our work with our clients and with ourselves? The very first thing we want to consider is our knees. Okay? The amount of spring and bend that we have in our knee structure. I'm just going to step back a couple of steps to look at this. Now, remember when we practice our Tai Chi stance, the first thing we do is feel our feet connected to the ground, and next our knees are relaxed. It's that relaxed and bouncy suppleness in our knees that allows that spring force to come up through the body, translate up into the body, creating more efficient movement. We can use gestures that we already know in order to practice this. Something like flowing motion, where that scooping motion, the knees bend and then rise, and then as we sink back down into the knees again, loading that kinetic energy, and then rising back up out of the knees, and then sinking again. This energy can only flow through the system if the knees are supple and yielding and resilient, creating this fluid movement. We can do it with cloud hands, rounding around and then pushing across, gently sinking into that knee. The knee again yields and bounces us back over to the other side. Remember a couple of months ago we had the circling practice with our feet from the ground up? Well, as those forces travel from the ground up, they travel through our knees, up into the rest of our body. But our knees have to be supple and relaxed. So whether it's cloud hands, whether it's flowing motion, rising and sinking, whether it's Party the Wild Horse's mane, pushing across, and then again, loading and then pushing through the leg and feeling the knee relax to allow the motion to come through. Any gesture that you're already practicing, maybe it's crane and sinking down. Anything you're already doing, begin to work in this concept of this resilient factor or resilient energy that kind of comes through the knees when the knees are soft and supple. Remember, gang, that if we're living on planet Earth, for us to move across the land, we need to push off of the ground. If the ground wasn't there, we wouldn't move anywhere. Think about an astronaut in space when they're in their space capsule and they're kind of floating around up there. You know, they're floating. In order for them to get across the space capsule, they have to push off of something to go across. In order for us to move, we have to push off of something, in other words. And if we're on our feet, it's the earth that we're pushing off of. So even when we're reaching up to a high cabinet, the only reason we can reach the high cabinet is because there's an equal and opposite force going down through the earth in order for us to do that. When we have this resiliency, this spring ability in the body, we are much more efficient in that movement, and these forces can be generated and translated throughout the whole body. If we are very stiff, if our knees were straight, and we did a lot of lifting like this, we'd end up with some overuse problems and traumas in these areas. So with our clients, standing up, if we ask them to bend the knees a little bit more and get a little more supple and bouncy in the knee structures, that's a really great way to begin working on that tenet. How about for ourselves? Why is it important for us to practice this, folks? Well, when we practice that flowing motion and we practice cloud hands and we have some bending knees, for those of you who work in acute care settings where you are doing patient transfers a lot during the day, there's a couple of different ways to think about this. You could do your patient transfer and of course bend your knees, but then you stiffen up with your knees bent, and that creates a lot of load force throughout the whole system. If you were flexy and bouncy and resilient doing your transfers, you'd be able to use the energy from the earth, and I don't mean some crazy energy coming up through the earth, I mean you pushing your feet down into the ground, and equal and opposite direction of energy coming up through your body. If you push down into the ground to get your lift, you're going to have more power and force throughout your whole body to get that lift. If you bend your knees but then stiffen up and do your lifting from here, right, then you're going to create a lot more overuse injury in the upper part of your body. So for us as professionals to practice these Tai Chi principles, get the fluid movement, the rising and the sinking in the body, get that body fluid and moving, feel your feet push down through the earth and feel the equal and opposite transfer of force come up through your body, but you'll only feel it if your knees are relaxed and bouncy. So there's our Easter training for this month. Try it. See how you do. Let us know how you feel about this. Protect your own bodies and help your clients move more efficiently as well. Thank you very much for joining this month. Have an extra happy Easter with yourself or with your kids and with your families. Enjoy, be well, and I look forward to hearing from you and seeing you again soon.